Hey, so in this video, what I want to do is put a little bit more of my builder hat on and run you through the behind the scenes of building an MCP for a membership. So Ryan and I have been working together on a project called Smarter Living, where we help other entrepreneurs and B2B businesses build with AI. So my goal is more of being the marketer, but my goal here is to show you how you can build inbound content engines using AI to do all of the heavy lifting that was previously something that took hours and hours and hours to do. So I'm going to try not to get as technical and stick to the high level stuff, but if I do get technical and you have any questions, you can hit subscribe, you can comment below, and any templates and things we have in the future we will be sharing with you. So what I'll do is sort of talk through architecturally what happened and then show you a little demo of it. So provisioning all of this, this is the dashboard where you can see essentially all of the users in the back end working. But before we get into all of that, there's a little onboarding form that somebody who comes into a membership, in this case, Modern Maker is a marketing membership where it's owned by myself, but I help people install inbound content marketing engines in their business that run without them and turn leads to customers and clients. The premise of this video is to show you the thinking process behind using Claude to build an MCP instead of having to send like separate ChatGPT links and stuff like that. So ideally, there's several steps, but just to give you an overview, there's like an onboarding form that people fill in that has a set of questions, and then it grants them access to the MCP. And then once they do, they have this sort of follow along thing where when they say run the build prompt, it runs the offer, the funnel, their low ticket sales page, their order bumps, their upsells, their video sales letter, their game plan tool, and then spits out HTML code to build landing pages, like for example, an easy one, and we do like minimum viable products, right? It doesn't have to be some grandiose thing, but for example, this was previously something like a Go high level equivalent page with a drag and drop builder. The VSL and all of that was through the MCP, right? And all of this design, everything you see on this page was done by that. And then you buy, a checkout process and so on and so forth. So just as a little demo so you can see what's going on. But essentially, once that happens, then you have like a virtual version of yourself or myself in this case as the mentor to the group to chat to, and some other tools that I'll talk about in a second. So then you have ThriveCart. What used to take hundreds of hours of video and explaining is now literally a 7-minute video, and then a template that then they port over. And then there's a series of automated emails in this funnel that turn, when somebody opts into a lead magnet, for example, they want to be pre-sold with a pre-purchase email that gets triggered with something like Kit, or if you have any other email service provider. And then there's a post-purchase sequence that triggers once somebody buys something. And then what happens in the membership is people then focus on their LinkedIn posts and their emails once this sort of front-loaded layer of the MCP is given. Now that you know this, right? Like in the past, you had to give out like links like this, right? You had to do the videos, you had to go back and forth with clients in meetings and things. And now with the Claude MCP, you're able to do all of these components, right, in terms of building an inbound content marketing engine in one go. And as you can imagine, all of these have different things. So I would say round about a year or so ago, what happened was I created custom GPTs for each one of these things and then supplied a video with a walkthrough and so on and so forth. And then in came Claude, which allowed you to build skills, right? So if I go over here, you've all sort of heard of skills, and each skill does something of its own. Like you can have, I don't know, an article writer, an email writer, an offer maker, and all of these have like a set of commands that do specific things. So step one of that, like sort of not revolution, but the way the markets changed was being able to see that and build your own prompts, and then you would give them to clients in a Google Drive and so on and so forth, and you had to update them. Now with the MCP, you basically create a server on your end, and this entire flow, when somebody joins Skool, for example, so you can have a community like that when somebody books in a free trial, or in this case enters from a page that looks like this, then some things happen, right? So there's a webhook that recognizes that behavior, and then inside of Cloudflare, where we host all of this, it provisions a token and stores it in a database for each user. So let's say user Ryan just joined the membership, it would log them in there, right, and give them a token. Then Kit sends a welcome email with their personal connection URL that says, hey, here's your MCP credentials, you can use that in there, and then you can paste that into Claude to use the tools. If they churn, then the nightly cron job revokes that access. So again, you don't have to do anything manually. Now, some of the components of this build are being able to have an MCP server, which is like the brain. I think of it like an API. And that is built on a Cloudflare Worker. I've called it the Modern Maker MCP in this case, but usually like Cloudflare is a really good recommendation because they handle all of the nitty gritty DevOpsy stuff. And this is the thing members connect Claude to. It speaks the MCP protocol at the /MCP URL that I created, and then hands out the tools. So what happens in essence is somebody goes to their customize, they go to connectors, the same way you can connect to Canva, Fathom, GitHub, Gmail, whatever. You can then basically click here, add a custom connector, you add the remote MCP URL that is triggered, and then you have access to all of the skills that I created in this membership, right? Using your custom URL or whatever it is. So then you can literally interact with it to create all of the things that we said above. So number two is a database. So inside Cloudflare, there's something called a D1 database, and the source of truth is the person who has access, members, tokens, the tiers, the trial status, depending on how you set up your own membership. It recognizes all of that, and then all of the skills and tools are initially read as .md files, and they're bundled into the worker. So the third thing to handle is payments. So I use a company called ThriveCart, which is like a checkout page that sits on top of Stripe, and that fires a webhook and auto grants access to people who have paid depending on the tier. Then there's an email layer that constitutes of 2 bits. So member emails. So Kit triggers a welcome for a trial member, and it has a little nurture sequence to make sure people are onboarded correctly. The worker auto subscribes buyers to Kit sequences and triggers events. So for example, you have a trial start, and I'll show you a little bit of that in a second. And then you have internal alerts. So if somebody has unsubscribed from, let's say, my Kit, I don't have permission to send them something. So I use a company called Resend, and Resend basically sends error alerts or system alerts to me, then I can handle that bit manually. And then there's the community layer. So in this case, it's Skool, but it works on Circle or any other community you might have, like Heartbeat, etc. And it's handled via Zapier. So once a sign up comes through, it fires a zap with a webhook and grants access to start running a trial. That runs alongside ThriveCart as a second front door. And once they've actually purchased or done whatever, depending on where they come from, it then triggers their behavior, because in the past, for my case, I used to handle payments on ThriveCart. So when I started doing the school trials, I had to have 2 separate doors. And then there's an admin dashboard. So a browser UI, you have it's password protected, and you get to see and manage your members. And there is an underlying layer in the back end. So you have authentication. Every member gets a personal connection token, and it's given access. It could be revoked when a member churns, so that actually increases retention because these tools are sticky. I have a daily cron job at 3 a.m. That has 2 jobs: to clean up or remove anybody who churned, and check for any trial conversions, and move the 7-day trials to active, and fire the welcome email. So I'll show you a little bit of the behind the scenes here, but essentially this is my dashboard. You can see members essentially, and these churned ones are my own trials as I was building it off of last week to make sure it was working. And you can see some of the heavy hitters are, virtual Jacob is the top used skill because people use my digital version. The anti-AI skill, Teddy, is like a copywriter that reviews sales pages and things like that. And then the offer docs, the hooks, the content strategy, and all of that sort of stuff. And then you get to see any error logs and who's come through and if anything is okay. And then members activity. And I've got it set here to basically allow me to look at who's on a trial. 2 members have come in on a trial since I've tested this, and then it tells you where they come from. So whether it came from ThriveCart or Skool, and if somebody converted, like yesterday, somebody here wanted access to more of the tools. So then I just triggered a convert now, and it got the email sent to them and the MCP details, etc. And then the nice part of all of this is I can generate a report every week, which tells me what my clients are struggling in, and what part of the MCP they're hitting most, and what sort of problems they're having, which allows me to help them better, right? And then create more tools and fix these processes in essence to make sure that they are happy beings and retain themselves. So then this is the GitHub repo where I was building all of this and all the components. So I won't get into that, but there's like the high level stuff. Basically has the skills, the admin, the webhooks, the tools, the MCP itself, and it converts the MD files to TypeScript. So that way we can communicate with the database and send data back and forth. So that is the infrastructure layer. It's really, really cool the way that it's done. And then once somebody hits Claude and they connect, let me see if I can pull something up here. They can say, show me my skills, right? And then this triggers this message, which shows them, let's say in my world, we create offers, funnels, and posts. It shows you wherever you are in the journey, which tools or which skills from the MCP you like. So if you don't have an offer, you can use Iggy to write your offer. If you're building your leverage pad, or in this case, your funnel, your content engine, Frodo designs your low ticket strategy, Thrivey builds it for you. George spins up your game plan, and Matty writes your post and pre-purchase emails. And then when it comes to posts, you have a content strategist, a hook refining bot, an anti-AI bot, an article maker, and then a launch maker. So it writes your waitlist emails, and then your actual emails and stuff like that. And then your daily best friends are virtual me, Teddy, who reviews your landing pages, and Gandalf, who's like your mindset coach. And then there's other little bonuses here for people who can't make decisions. I've got the LLM Council that just fights itself and makes a decision for you. And then essentially, once you run the build prompt, it creates your offer, your funnel, and everything from start to finish. And it is exactly how like I made all of the pages I showed you earlier, and these sorts of things instantly. And they look really nice. So there's a video here on this page where I run through that. So this video's purpose is more the architecture and the thinking. If you want to see some of the results, you can click here and have a look, I'll drop it down below. But it's done a really, really decent job to do that. And then basically once clients run the build prompt, it has a little like architect prompt that pulls all of them in order, grabs the onboarding form, and then does the magic trick. So you, depending on what it is you want to build, might be thinking like, I've got my own skills or custom GPTs that I want to port over. So essentially you need to build the MCP server, think of your database. For me, this is custom, right? So I had to overcome the problems of having a Skool and a ThriveCart link, having emails for existing members and new members, then an admin dashboard that allows me to see all of these processes. And then I didn't want to do more manual work, so I created provisioning, like little loops that the agent goes and does to create a cron job to clean up churned members and things like that. So this is something like once you build it, if you are in the membership space, for example, you can demo your MCP in videos like this. You can give people a free trial and then upsell them into the whole thing. So for example, with me, what I'm saying is you can have 4 of the tools for $99 a month, but you can have all 17 of the tools for $250. For you or other members that I've been coaching, we've had a $1 trial that gives you a plan or writes your offer, and then it sends you into like a $99 a month or whatever tier of access you want it to be. So you give someone a taste of it, you demonstrate, and then you can upsell them. And then essentially, instead of having scattered offers and things, your little engine is you demonstrating with videos like this or posts that showcase what your MCP does and getting people on a trial and then ascending them, right? And it's as simple as that. So I have a setting here for somebody who can't see the 17 skills, which essentially reminds them, it says, if you want to see it, you can. And then just so to give you ideas, right? You can have a membership button like this in your own community, and then tell people, you know, these are the basic tools that you have. And then, for example, people read this in my world and upsell themselves, where it's like, you can go to Skool, you can click membership, you can do, you know, these steps, and then you can upgrade to have, you know, the wizard layer of the of the MCP. So again, here, hopefully this has given you some ideas on how to infrastructurally think of your MCP. You can take a moment to screenshot this and go down below, and then you can check out smarterliving.ai if you want to see some more of that, and follow myself and Ryan, which I'll leave his link down below, and hope to see you in the next video.